Now this one you have to use your imagination again, so it's another full moon shot with the halo around it. But I'll give you a clue. It's a head, and it's looking up this way.
Yeah, it's quite scary looking,
Yes.
actually.
So anybody can see it, and what animal does it remind you of?
Oh, this looks like a wolf.
Oh, a wolf, okay.
Or a hyena or something, or cougar maybe?
Okay.
Something like that.
It's actually, I call it the dinosaur moon.
Oh, okay.
Can you see the
dinosaur.
T-Rex?
Yeah.
There's its big eye, there's its nostril, its
Oh,
jaw,
right,
and here's its big
okay.
mouth.
Yeah.
Right, see, I would think
Okay.
it's a little different. But
Yeah. So it's a dinosaur moon. But hey, if hyena or wolf works for you.
Either way, it looks kind of scary.
Yeah, it is a kind of a scary one. So this is one I showed you in the book. It was very hard to not have it too bleached out. But when I saw the actual picture, I was like, oh, just gorgeous. There's a tree. This is actually the foreshore here, and then this beautiful tree growing up with the moon. But it reminds me very much of the cover that Bob did for the book, you know, because it's also Victor Lake. Of course, his moon on the cover is a lot bigger than this one. And there's Bob Guest's painting. So as I say, it reminds me of the group of seven.
Very much, very much.
Yeah, and it's taken, again, a full moon over Victor Lake. Victor Lake's got quite a few stories around it too. How it got its name is mentioned, is Bob did a story for me in the book.
Are those acrylic or?
He does mostly oil, I think, but he does do acrylic too, and very occasionally watercolor. This is Mount Louis. And this again is Victor Lake, taken by photographer Margaret Abraham, sunrise, and it's looking across to Mount Louis again. It's a very deep lake. It's the first lake that you kind of come to coming into Grand Cache.
I was going to say, is it right next door to Grand Cache? I can't remember. I
Yeah.
was there years ago.
South of Grand Cache, yeah, as you're coming in, it's on the left-hand side. You'll actually come to Grand Cache Lake first, and then Victor Lake is the one closest to town, just before you start climbing the hill to come into town. And then this is Victor Lake again. So a lot of the artists and photographers love coming here because it has all these little inlets and it has islands, and it's just a different mood. Yeah, you get lovely reflections there too. This one I love too. This was taken at Pierre Grey Lakes, which is about 30 kilometers south of Grand Cache. And I was there again with my friend Margaret, and she was trying to shoot animals and lightning as it was striking, but you know, that's extremely difficult. And I was just wandering around taking pictures. And it's looking towards the south into Wilmore Lake, and you can see the rain curtains hanging down here, and then lightning would jagger and flash. And then I love the way the light was just caught from the sun here, and then they're different color here, and they have these beautiful trees that just bow right out over the water. It has quite a lot of stories and a lot of hauntings around Pierre Grey Lakes. There's a abandoned, about 125 years old fur trading post there that Pierre Grey, who Pierre Grey Lakes is named after, he lived there with his family in the wintertime, and then Laxington in the summertime. And so the remains of his trading post are there, and people have felt that they're being watched while they're walking around the trading post, the remains of. There's a lot of graves there, but the spirit houses are long gone, and so you just sort of see these mounds on the earth. And the one daughter died there in 1918 with the flu epidemic, and she's buried there. So people say that they've seen these lights flitting around amongst the trees, and so they say maybe it's the daughter. She's just keeping an eye on the place to make sure nobody messes around with the remains. Feel of the sunset. This one I love. Now there, the lightning was captured. There's a labyrinth in town. It's on the edge of town. It's 70 feet in diameter, has 11 circles, and it's based on the design that's on the floor of the Chartres Cathedral in France. It's 13th century, not built then, but the design is a 13th century design. And it's compass orientation, so you enter from the east. And when I was writing the first book, this photograph appeared in our local newspaper by the photographer. She doesn't live there anymore, Antoinette, and she'd taken this picture. And I immediately thought, oh, that would be perfect to go in my book. So I went over and I talked to her and I said, would you mind if I use the picture, and I'll give you credit and whatever. So it's there. And she said, oh yeah, no, that would be great. So it's one of the storms looking over into Wilmore again. And she just,
Haunting, isn't it?
isn't it? And it just caught and there's a sound anomaly there. So when you stand in the center and you face north, which is towards Grand Mountain, it has to be really still, no wind. You stamp your feet, the ground sounds hollow underneath you, and although it's totally open, if you clap your hands, it's a very subtle sound. It's not echoey, it's hollow. It sounds like you under an invisible dome chamber.
Who built the Labyrinth?
It was a community outreach program, project built in 2009, and it's to help people relieve stress.
Right.
So you do it as a contemplative walk.
And was it built purposely on that spot?
Yes, they chose that spot. It used to be that the town used to go and dump their snow there during, when they were clearing the roads in the winter. But it has this fantastic 360-degree view. And
Where is it?
it's down off of 97. You know where the Fireman Pit Road is?
No.
Okay, so just off of the Fireman Pit Road, you go to the right. And there's that big flat open
Yeah,
area.
okay.
And the interesting thing, sorry?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, on the condo road, yeah, close to that. So the interesting thing is they didn't realize that with the previous years of the dump trucks dumping the snow mixed with salt, it was a natural fertilizer, not fertilizer, weed killer. So for the first 2 or 3 years, no grass grew, no weeds, because the salt was in the ground. And they were trying to decide how to do this. I mean, every stone has been carefully measured and laid by hand, and then people saw them doing this. What are you doing? Can we help? So it turned out to be sort of a community program thing. And it takes you about 20 minutes to walk it. If you don't cheat and hop over to the rocks to the center, you kind of wend your way to the center and back out again. It's in quadrants. And so it's an ongoing program because they were trying to see, they thought, okay, well, because they had limited funds, they said, okay, we'll just take the natural stone in the surrounding area and build it with that. And then later on, maybe we can put a brick underlay, or, they toyed around with different ideas. But people just love it the way it is. They say, oh, it has a sort of Stonehenge feel.
It really does.
Yeah, and now that since this photograph was taken around the outskirt, there are other rocks where they've put signs explaining all about the labyrinth and its advantages and the benefits. And also at the compass points, the mine brought in these very unusual shaped rocks. So there's one that I call the Spanish galleon on the southern point that's shaped just like a Spanish galleon. And another one on the west point is like a cradle. And the rock is, no, I've always got to remember, I think it's red with black veins through it, or the other, and it sparkles in the sun. And then this is the eastern entrance. They just put 2 big white boulders there. So it's a very cool place to visit.
Beautiful.
There it is on full moon night. So my friend Margaret, she had all the equipment, she set up a tripod, and it's looking into Wilmore. And this is taken from the eastern entrance. This was earlier before the other rocks were put in. The eastern entrance would be here. That previous picture you saw was looking this way. So this is looking from the north. You can see the north here, looking south. So
Photograph was concave, kind of feeling.
yeah, she kind of had I think she had to, what do you call it, the wide angle lens. And then she opened up the aperture. It took about 2 minutes to take this picture because she opened up to capture all the light from the full moon.
Oh, so this is a nighttime
This
picture.
is a full moon night, yes.
Wow.
And there were deer feeding all around on the outskirts, and I kept sort of jumping and looking because I thought it was cougars sneaking up on us. But it was just, it was a full moon night, and I said to her, come on, let's go down to the labyrinth and get some pictures.
And she got that much color off of a nighttime
Yeah.
picture
Yeah.
She left her aperture.
because of
Yeah,
the
she
long
takes great
exposure.
pictures.
Isn't that
Yeah.
something?
Margaret's very accomplished.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're from Grand Cache too.
Sorry, yes, Harry and Donna used to live in Grand Cache, so I haven't seen them for, God, years. Hey.